guys, and welcome back to our 9th episode of GDF Diaries. Today I am joined by the amazing Meena Kumari, who is pretty much my inspiration. If you know me, I'm always like, yeah, Meena says this, Meena says that. So when it comes to like the domestic abuse sector, she is like the guru over there. Pressure. So I got to know Meena, but actually I took part in a training that she done at my workplace. Well, it was Zoom days, but still a training. And I was literally blown away. I was just like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. I've learned so much. Then I reached out for one of her clubhouse sessions, and obviously she just spoke the truth, dropped mic. And yeah, then she's kind of been networking, and she's kind of plugged me with networking with other people. So yeah, she's literally one of my faves. So yeah, let's get into it. Can you introduce yourself properly? Like obviously I'm like here like, this is Meena, this is her life story, but can you introduce yourself properly? What do you do and stuff like that?
Okay, so hi everybody, my name is Meena Kumari. I'm the director and founder of H.O.P.E Training and Consultancy. H.O.P.E stands for Helping Other People Every Day. I'm an independent kind of consultant. I'm really passionate about raising awareness around safeguarding issues, sexual violence and abuse, and in particular around domestic abuse.
Okay, thank you. So initially my first question was actually going to be, what does it stand for, which you've now told us. I'm helping people every day. And so can you go into like what you do a bit more? Because obviously you said you are passionate about safeguarding, helping people, but what does H.O.P.E do? Because obviously when you came to deliver training for us, it was honor-based abuse. So let me focus on that maybe. In terms of the training, first of all, what does honor-based abuse mean, and what is it that you kind of teach different people?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, my main, kind of my day job, is I do deliver training nationally as well as locally. And I think what lockdown has enabled us to do is deliver a lot more online, which has been phenomenal because, you know, I'm from Leicester, and being able to be in the Midlands and deliver to people in London or Manchester or Liverpool or, you know, some of the other cities and kind of areas that I've been to has been great. And it's not to say that we wouldn't travel. I have associates that I work with and we travel.
Yeah, I've seen you travel, yeah.
Travel
all over in London, I'm like, hey!
I would travel, but it's been nice to have like these training days at home. So, you know, a lot of my work is around raising the awareness. But, you know, training is a really interesting concept because people think of training as, okay, do you know what? You're going to get a PowerPoint and I'm going to talk at you. And that's not what H.O.P.E is about. And anyone that I work with, because I do work with some phenomenal associates, we're not about talking at people. We're about that collective learning, sharing that knowledge, which is what we would have done with you.
No, definitely.
When we did the kind of the so-called honor-based abuse training. But also it's about that reflective space. And I think the issues that I pick up a lot from practitioners or volunteers or whoever wants the training, they just sometimes don't have the headspace to think or to reflect on what's going on.
Because they see it as like, okay, it's another training. I'll be honest, obviously when we got it at work, we got the notification there's a training. Because we have so much training, you see training come through and I'm like, oh, here we go again. But then as soon as you guys actually started, I think it was you and like 2-3 other people. I was literally like, and it was kind of like, it was a long day, but it didn't feel like, you know, normally after like you get training and you're like, oh my God, thank God that's over. I was just like, damn, I want more. Like it was really good. And we had like groups and stuff, so it was interactive. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with you.
And I think that's the really, because training can be phenomenal if it's done well. And it's taken me years to learn that, you know, this is not something that I kind of picked up overnight as a trainer or as someone who wants to kind of share the knowledge that I've got. And it is about sharing knowledge. It's not about telling people, it's about sharing knowledge and listening to what they're kind of dealing with and what they're struggling with. And I think the interactive sessions, and I always think to myself, if I went on training, what would I want from that training session? I'm a very visual learner, so I've got dyslexia, I'm a very visual learner. So I try and bring that into my learning style, my teaching style, and think about, you know, what could others kind of take from it.
I love that. No, 100%. And I think it's important that you said that everyone learns differently. Like you said, whether or not you've got dyslexia, I'm quite visual as well. Like when I'm able to speak to someone on, yes, I do write stuff down just to kind of remind myself, but then I still need to use like colors because then I remember it. It's really interesting that you said that. So in terms of honor-based abuse, would you be able to explain what that actually means? Because I know people hear the term and they're kind of like, I don't know what they're talking about. And
So honor-based abuse, I mean, first of all, you know, a lot of people talk about it as a concept or as an umbrella term. So there's a number of things that could sit underneath it. So we hear predominantly in media around forced marriages. So people being forced to marry under duress, you know, no form of consent. And if they say no and they don't consent, you know, what are the consequences? And there's usually some form of punishment. And it impacts young people as well as adults, it impacts women as well as kind of men, and obviously we know it impacts children. So I think for honour-based abuse, the way I've always looked at it over the years is imagine living by a certain code or having a certain code within your community. And people say to me, you know, is it about people's religion? Is it about culture? Now, we all have different aspects as part of our religion and culture. But if you have a certain code, and one of those codes is you're not allowed to do A, B, C, and D, and you go against the code,
that's it.
What's the consequences? You know, what is the impact on you? And a lot of this still sits within that fundamental banner of power and control. And it still fits under patriarchy because it is predominantly men doing it to women, and it's not to say it doesn't happen to men or it doesn't happen to gay men or anything like that, but it is predominantly happening to women. And a lot of the times it's about kind of what are women expected to do? What are their kind of codes and rules, and what are the rules in that family dynamic or that relationship? So a lot of the work that I do is kind of working with practitioners around that. But what's really important, especially if clients or survivors are going to the police or they're going to DA services, you know, general frontline DA services, because we do have specialist services or buy and for services which are doing phenomenal work, you know, the Halo Project, Karma Nirvana, Southall Black Sisters, IMCAN, you know, in Leicester, we've got, you know, Panaga, we've got the Xynthia Trust. We've got so many services that are doing all this phenomenal work. But if you want to report it, and you do go to your local police station,
do you have the capacity or the understanding to really support you?
Exactly, because we know, you know, if someone does want to go for a prosecution or if someone wants to take it further, what are your options? Now, not everyone will want to go down that route. People don't want to kind of penalise or criminalise their families. What a lot of victims and survivors say to me is, Meena, we just want them to stop. You know, I want to go off to uni, I want to have a boyfriend, look, I'm pregnant, you know, they might have found out that I'm doing drugs or I've been using Facebook and someone's posted something about me, and now the family is saying I'm dishonouring them. Where does that leave me? And all of these things are coming out. We've had it for years, Jackie. This isn't new. And this is what I say to police officers, and this is what I say to practitioners all the time. This concept isn't new. Look at the Harm Network at Lancashire University. Dr. Roxanne Khan, Dr. Mazir Idris, phenomenal academics, Dr. Aisha Gill, you know, Dr. Olumide Adisa. They've been writing and doing work around this. You've got black and brown and white academics talking about this. It's not new. However, what our research showed was the conviction rates are still really, really low. The training that some forces are getting.
Yeah, because I was going to actually say that you've been like delivering training to actual police officers, haven't you? So
yeah, so the training I've been doing to the police has been under the banner of Safe Lives, and it's Domestic Abuse Matters. Now that's not honour-based abuse training, that is domestic abuse. Yeah, kind of, but we've been really heavily looking at coercive and controlling behaviour.
Oh my gosh, it's so... I was actually saying that to Georgia the other day. I was saying, like, with these days with my clients as well, I can see there's a lot more, rather than physical abuse, there's so much coercive because it's so hard to prove in court. And yeah, the rise has been crazy. Like, literally, most of my cases are not even... There's no physical abuse anymore.
Because why would you? If you were a perpetrator, if you were the person that was abusing your partner, why would you use physical violence when you know just by giving that person the one look, or hiding an item, or gaslighting them, or manipulating them, or turning their family against them, is going to make them stay in the relationship? And this is the issue we've got. And coercive controlling behaviour and legislation, we've had it since 2015. Conviction rates, you know, they have improved. Are they at a rate that they should be at? No, they're not. But actually, are we where we are with DA for certain things? No, we're not. So we've got to keep going. We've got to keep kind of banging that drum. The training to the police officers has been phenomenal. It's not perfect, but it's been phenomenal. We are delivering. We're getting out there. We've just kind of done training in London with the Met Police, you know, and I've been delivering some of that. It's headed up by someone called Pete Williams, and, you know, prior to him, it was Melanie Morgan, and they've just done some phenomenal work. And it's a College of Policing product, you know, so we know it's kind of, it's got a really good accolade attached to it.
No, I love that. That's good. So in terms of focusing on our sector that we work in, so the VAWG sector, which is the violence against women and girls sector, do you feel, let's just keep it real, do you feel there's racism within our sector?
Jackie.
I was trying to say it nice.
Really?
Girl.
Look, let's keep it real. I think in the past 12 to 18 months, what we've seen since the pandemic here, and actually it's really shine a light on our sector. The violence against women and girls sector do a phenomenal work.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take anything away from that.
100%, I agree.
Because, you know, they don't get funded properly. We work really long hours. You know, the staff turnover rate can be really, really high. The trauma attached to what we're listening to is massive. However, sector leaders within VAWG do need to take some responsibility, and I'm not going to shy away from that. I've said it openly before.
Yeah.
Need to take some responsibility, in particular around black staff and their approach to their recruitment, but also their retention. We need to listen to what our staff members are telling us. We need to be open to criticism, and I think as leaders, we need to be, you know, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
We know it ain't perfect, but the good thing is, the more and more I talk to leaders, the more and more that we challenge, because we have to challenge, Jackie, you know that. The more I'm hearing and I'm seeing people say, actually, no, we recognise it and we want to make a change, we want to see that difference, but it ain't going to happen overnight.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not going to happen overnight. And you know, we've got to commend services like Sister Space. They've stuck their neck out.
I actually love them. Once again, that's someone I'm I'm
Yeah.
getting there, don't worry about it. But I was just
Yeah.
because I look at all like their social medias and they stick to what they're saying and they say it without shame, and I love it. And that's how it needs to be regardless, but they're literally unapologetically loud about everything they're saying and I love it.
And I think, do you know what? And I think you said it, you've just summed it up. They kind of say it and they say it unapologetically. They stick to what they're saying, so they will tell you this is what we're about, this is who we're supporting. They're not kind of giving in to what the VAWG sector wants.
That's it.
Not giving in to what funders want and all that commissioning stuff that comes with it. But do you know what? They're just getting on with it. They're supporting their clients. They're doing what they're doing. They've opened up a charity shop. I went to visit them a few weeks ago in Hackney.
Yeah.
They're in the heart of what they do. And they're not afraid to show it on social media.
They don't care. I actually love it.
Yeah. And we need more of that.
Yeah.
If any sector leaders are listening to this, we need a little bit more realism. We need people to get off kind of high horses wherever they are and realise
because
that,
these are real lives. This is reality. It's not like just looking good for the camera or looking good for the public or whatever. It's real life that we're dealing with, and I feel like sometimes people forget that. And that brings me to my next question in terms of the outrage when it comes to certain situations. So obviously when Sarah Everard passed away or got murdered, let me not say passed away, may she rest in peace, it was horrible, don't get me wrong. However, that same outrage is not, you don't see that same outrage for a coloured person, whether they be black, Asian, whatever. And there's so many people that die every single day, but there's not really that same outrage. What is your view on that?
I mean, I just want to echo what you said. I mean, thoughts always with the families.
100%.
So thoughts always with Sarah's kind of families. But you're absolutely right. And I think the media have got to take a big responsibility for
100%.
this. So the way that they report murders of black and brown women or dual heritage women, you know, anyone kind of, like you said, people of colour, you can see there's a big difference. But it's not just the reporting, it's the activism that comes out after that. And I'm seeing more and more kind of national as well as buy and for services talking about this and coming out and talking about this, which is brilliant. And one thing I will have to say, you know, Karen Ingala Smith counting dead women.
Yeah, oh gosh.
You know, big up to her for what she's done.
100%.
Because she, you know, she will tell us about the women that have died, but she will talk about all the women.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
because it wasn't until I actually followed her, because
Yeah.
of you, that's what I'm saying. Like, whenever I do say stuff, it's, I'm like, hey, what's this? But then I start literally every single day, different woman, and it's like, and there's certain people wouldn't have known about.
And they wouldn't have known about it. So we've got to give shout outs to, you know, sector leaders and feminists that are there, that have been doing it for us. Southall Black Sisters were raising these issues kind of in the 70s and 80s, and I will always remember that, and I will always respect what people have done. However, we need to be really, really mindful when it comes to activism.
Yeah.
Who are we speaking about? Who are we representing? Why is it always black and brown women talking about black and brown women?
Yeah.
You know, and when white women are talking about them, it's phenomenal. It's great. They're great allies. You know, they have our back. We have their back.
Yeah.
We need a lot more of that, though. A lot more of that.
100%. No, I agree with you. And I think I even voiced that when I was speaking in the article with Save Lives, that I think that's the issue. Sometimes we need like the white people to speak about it for it to be heard in a way, because yes, all the black people are going to be listening to me, but we need the other people to be listening to us as well.
And it's that exchange of information. Your followers might be very different to mine, might be very different to other people's. People have massive platforms, you know, and there are people out there with really big platforms who are kind of sharing the messages that we're doing. Dr. Jessica kind of is a phenomenal, you know, Victim Focus is a phenomenal ally in what she does and kind of raising that awareness. But we need to keep going. We can't stop just because we might not be seeing the hashtag BLM as much. Doesn't mean we stop now.
100%. I agree with you. And in terms of how do you, you kind of answered it already. How can we work together as a community? You've already answered that, so tick. So what would you advise those that are working within the VAWG sector, so myself or other people watching, what would your advice be in terms of, you know, kind of staying strong and continuing? Because sometimes, like you said, it is quite tiring. It's quite, you know, like it's traumatic, I would even say. And especially when you feel like you're not really heard. Well, me, I just keep going anyway. But some people might be discouraged. Do you get what I mean? What would your advice be?
I mean, it's really easy to be discouraged in this sector. You've got to remember, we are listening to other people's stories all the time. You know, if you are an IDFA, an outreach worker, refuge worker, an ISFA, a helpline worker, sessional, a volunteer, whatever you're doing, you are listening to other people's trauma potentially on a daily basis. You are making notes. So not only are you listening, you're then reading it back. And then where are you taking that? What are you doing with all of that?
And if there's like a safeguarding issue.
Safeguarding, you know, also where, even in safeguarding, you know, where is your reflective space to think about what is being told to you? And I think it's really interesting because the course I'm doing at Worcestershire Uni, it's taught me loads about being a leader within safeguarding. And you're expected to have all the answers sometimes. You know, services are on your case. You might be representing a case at Marac. You might be thinking about high-risk victims. You know, especially with forced marriage and HBA, you know, what are we going to do? So it's really important that you have really good supervision, whether that's clinical supervision or one-to-one, or reflective supervision, as I call it. It's really good that you take time out for yourself, whether that's through exercise, reading books, watching television programs, talking to friends or family. I've got a really good supportive base within the VAWG sector. So shout out to Sarah Wigley, shout out to Dr. Olumide Disa, Roxanne Khan, Yasmin, because there are so many people in the sector that I will turn to. They get it. They know what I'm going through. And also, it's not just women. I will talk to men. So shout out to Imran and Pete. You know, I will speak to other people to get their perspective on what I'm doing. Because I'm not perfect. And I'm learning. And sometimes, you know, days are hard. And you need that space to have that conversation.
Especially if you have your own stuff going on as well. It's like...
Oh, right. We all have our own stuff, you know. Hello, have children, you know, home life, you know, husband. It's like you don't know which way you're going. But, you know, sometimes doing that is working is easier than give me more.
I don't have that life, I'm not going to lie. I don't have kids yet, so I'm just like, I'm going to just...
Take your time.
So yeah, perfect. So in terms of advice to victims of any kind of abuse, really, on-the-base abuse, whether it's emotional, and what's the advice you would give to anyone going through it at the moment, and possibly like just advice to kind of maybe avoid it, what are the red flags and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, safety is really, really important, and we know with so-called on-the-base abuse and forced marriages and female genital mutilation, and, you know, shout out to Heba for the work that she's been doing around FGM as well online, and in her space kind of over the years. It's really important that, you know, if they do feel at risk, dial 999. The police are there to support them. You know, they are there to support kind of victims of these crimes. But also we have some phenomenal buy and fall services that have great helplines that offer services in different languages. You know, and we do have a system where, whether it's accommodation-based services, and yes, we've had issues with no recourse to public funds and migrant women.
Well, it's kind of improving these days.
Yeah, and it's not perfect.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but, you know, look at the services out there that are lobbying the government. Look at the services out there that are piloting schemes where they are supporting women that don't have access to funds. But it's really important that if you feel at risk, that you know where to go to report it. And at any point, if you feel that because the borders are opening, and
exactly.
Carmen Ivana, Natasha, Paisley, ICRO, the Iranian and Kurdish Women's Rights Organisation, they're all raising awareness around. We are seeing, and we are going to potentially see, a rise in cases going out. But there are phenomenal people like Mindy Mayhill, retired cop from West Midlands Police, who does this work, speaks to officers about what they can do. But we cannot forget the buy and force services that are doing this work on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to say?
I just want to say I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I'm always talking about you as well, and I think we need more Jackies in this world. Because I can talk about the sector and sector leaders and staff all the time, but at the end of the day, we need change, but we also need to learn from you, and vice versa, and I think that's what we've been missing. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much. We have a little present. It's from me and Jojo. It's just a thank you present. Nothing special. But thank you so much. This was actually our very last episode for this season at the moment. So I'm just really glad that I got to finish it with you. So even though this is our last episode, guys, we have one more episode coming out next month, a very special one, with the CEO of Safe Lives. So make sure you check that out next month. Make sure you like and comment on this video, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.